Now I would like to call upon stage Mr. Mansoor Sarwar.
All right. I think there are lots of familiar faces and a lot of new faces also, so I'll probably spare you from the detailed introductions for now. You can look me up on LinkedIn. We'll try to focus on core theme for today in the interest of time. And what I'm going to talk about is digital transformation, a practical roadmap. Before we go into the details of the presentation, I would like to have a bit of a feeling on the kind of audience we have with us today. So if you are representing IT function, whether you are CIO, CTO, or you are from the IT department of the organization, can I have a show of hands quickly, please? Great. And how many gentlemen or ladies are representing finance functions? All right, a decent mix. And I would like to assume the rest are probably cross-functional, maybe from supply chain, maybe C-level execs, maybe the owners of the companies. But a good mix. It's always interesting to have a nice mix of especially IT and finance whenever we talk about ERP, because if these two functions don't work well together, it's a recipe for disaster. And if they do, it's very easy to digitally transform organizations. All functions are equally important, but these two are very critical to the digital transformation of every organization. Let's talk about, all right, cool. Let's talk about why we're calling digital transformation a journey. And that's a very, very important point. Many organizations, if you look on your left and you look on your right, please go ahead and do that. Look on your left, look on your right. Chances are one person you just looked at already has had a failed digital transformation journey, because the failure rate is more than 50% as we speak. People have tried and aborted their digital transformation journeys every 1 out of 2 times, if not higher. So that brings us back to the whole point that are people really understanding what digital transformation journey is? Is it a journey or is it a project? And the problem with many companies even today is they're thinking of it as a project. They set a start date and an end date and a plan and a budget, and then they just go with it, and there's very little room for improvisation. There's very little room for changing course, and that's what we all need to be very mindful of, that the pace of change of technology is so high that you cannot stick with a project and a plan for, let's say, 2 to 3 years. If this is what you're trying to do in terms of transforming your organization, you need to make sure there are options, there are contingency plans in your project plan, in your digital transformation map, to make sure if something is not working, you can revert to something which will, rather than just trying to continue following the plan and realizing it wasn't a practical one. So in theory, what you need is a solution. And we're going to use the word ERP and digital transformation interchangeably today, though they're not the same thing. I think all of us are aware that digital transformation is much bigger than ERP. ERP is a subset of your digital transformation, but since today's theme is ERP Conference, and ERP is one of the most critical parts of your digital transformation, if not the most critical part. So we're going to use these words interchangeably today for my conversation. But effectively, you need an ERP to digitally transform yourself, which helps you adopt fast being the key word. If you're looking at a solution which requires heavy customization, hard-coded integrations, development to manage most of your business processes, you've probably selected the wrong product, because if it requires too much customization, it wasn't meant for you. There are a lot of ERP vendors, there are a lot of products, but not every product is fit for every industry, for every business, for every size of organization. So you need to reconsider your choices if you end up looking at a heavy customization budget at the onset. At the bottom of the screen, if you look at it, I don't know if at the back of the room everything is visible all the way to the bottom of the screen, but these are the key disruptors. We call them Industry 4.0. Some people call them digital transformation pillars, but the buzzwords are AI, machine learning, RPA, blockchain, and I can go on and on. But these are the new concepts that are disrupting our industry. When I'm saying our industry, ERP industry. If ERP vendors are not only aware, but also very much in sync with these technologies and these platforms, we can give you a future-proof roadmap. Otherwise, we are probably gonna be a bottleneck to your growth and bottleneck to your digital transformation. So you need to make sure the ERP software you're choosing and the digital transformation journey you are going on, if the vendor doesn't provide these, and the vendor shouldn't provide these, if an ERP vendor is pretending to be an IoT vendor and a blockchain vendor, probably again there's something fundamentally wrong in the sales pitch. But what they need to make sure is they are not only aware of these technologies, their ERP software is capable of talking to them at the right levels without heavy customization, APIs, web services, and lots of tools are available to us as ERP vendors to make sure we talk to these technologies. So when you're choosing, make sure the ERP vendor has understanding and awareness and roadmap about these Industry 4.0 technologies. Now, taking a step back in terms of who in the organization is driving the digital transformation. So if you look at this chart, and this was a research done by IDC only last year, CIOs are leading the charge in terms of digitally transforming the organizations. And we're talking about company-wide digital transformation. What worried me about this chart is the CFOs are sitting somewhere all the way almost near the bottom. Only 21% CFOs, so 1 out of 5 CFOs are involved in a company-wide digital transformation, which is obviously probably part of the big problem that we have. The digital transformation aren't doing as well as they should. Probably one of the most important stakeholders in the organization is sitting on the fence, sitting on the side, not participating properly. The moment you flip this chart into something around departments, so now we're talking about functional or line of business digital transformation, you see CFOs have suddenly come up all the way to 63%, which is a much healthier stat. But now what we are seeing here is another problem. Now all these C-level execs are focusing on their digital transformation, but within their own functions. Chief Marketing Officer is digitally transforming his marketing function, CFO is doing it for finance, your CHROs are digitally transforming your HR and people functions, but the problem is again same, the integration is not there. They are building wonderful silos, but silos at the end of the day. So this brought us into this more detailed research. We enacted the IDC to give us some more insight on why there's so much collaboration between the C-level execs. And we're not going to go through all this data today because we have constraint of time. We're going to just focus on the key two functions that I was just talking about. This is CFO and CIO, the second and the third, the second last and the last column. If you see the most common reason, which is colored in green, I don't know if it's again visible all the way at the back, but 30% CFOs and 30% CIOs seem to agree that the biggest barrier between the collaboration is they don't understand each other's role in the organization. That's a very honest feedback. If a CIO or a CFO is giving this feedback to an IDC of the world, that I don't understand what CIO's role is in digital transformation, and CIO says the same, that tells you there's a fundamental breakdown in terms of understanding each other's role in a digitally transforming organization. And that's something that a board, a CEO, a C-level executive committee needs to address before you even embark on a digital transformation journey. Once we take care of the people, and I'll come to this point in a second, the second most important part is customer experience. And this is where digital transformation has changed the focus from technology to customer. Until now, every other transformation we were doing was about technology. Mobile was a technology, and internet was a technology, and e-commerce was a technology. Now we're no more talking about technology because it's a given. You need to have the technology in your organization, but you have to understand how does it affect your customer, and more importantly, what does your customer want? What Uber has done to taxis and what Airbnb has done to hotels is not because they were amazing technology companies. It is because they understood what the customer wants, and the traditional businesses could not provide that. So they came in and they disrupted the whole industry, and they're taking it, obviously, some industries are at the wrong end of the life cycle. So you need to understand what people want. If they want a quarter-inch hole, don't sell them a quarter-inch drill. Give them a quarter-inch hole. So if I try to summarize the digital transformation business value, we say that don't go for digital transformation because you want to, because your competition is doing it, because you have the budget. These are all wrong motivations. These are called digital fashionistas who have the budget, the appetite, or the competition forcing their hand on digital transformation hardly ever ends up in a success. You need to look at these three lenses always when you're looking to digitally transform your organization. Three lenses, first one being customer experience. If you're going to invest into a digital transformation platform, will it improve customer experience for your customers? If the answer is yes, go for it. And the customers could be internal customers also. Don't get me wrong that it could be only external customers. If you are an IT department, finance is your customer as well. So if it'll improve the life of a finance manager, there's a check in the box. You should go ahead and consider it as a digital transformation option. The other bigger important one is driving operational efficiency. And this is where actually we need to focus more than the first one, because efficiencies are going to pay for these budgets. Every transformation, every project has a cost attached to it. And if it doesn't drive efficiencies, again, a counterproductive exercise. And last but not the least is if it improves a current business process or it creates a new business model. So in summary, if you have to check every investment you're doing in your organization on digital transformation, on technology, on automation, just do a quick acid test. It takes a few minutes to do this, but look through these three lenses, and if none of them are getting addressed, probably it's a bit of a if question you need to ask yourself, should you do it or not? Now, talking about operational efficiency, these are 6 levers that we're talking about here. This research came out of MIT recently, and they said this is a paradox in digital transformation where companies are struggling to find the balance between standardizing and empowering. Let me build on this for a second. The other 2 points are very much connected. Now, if you standardize a process or a project too much, you take the empowerment away from the team which is executing it. If you empower them too much, you take the standardization away. So the balance is somewhere in the middle. And the research that has come out is that in digital transformation, you need to pick functions and processes and then decide where they go on this paradox. You cannot have one brush and almost use a naive view that I'll try to strike the balance everywhere. There would be areas where you cannot and should not strike the balance between the two. Example is, for example, if it's manufacturing recipes of an organization, bill of materials, you should not empower your team to improvise them. They should be standardized. Standardization is needed there. But if it is customer service, you should probably empower your customer service rep to go well out of standard protocols to make a customer satisfied, happy, take care of their complaint. So again, you have to look at the business function, look at the flexibility that you would like to afford your organization, but then move between orchestrating and unleashing, controlling and innovating, standardizing versus empowering. So this brings us back to a summary of the key problems that the organization are facing, and the following slide will talk about how do we address them. But the first one, I think this is something most of you must have faced even now, outdated KPIs. So when a digital transformation happens, most organizations still measure it against return on investment. Okay, I'm giving you $1 million. When will I recover this $1 million, and how will I recover it? The normal thresholds are how quickly the current processes will be digitized. If for example, I'm just now going into the ERP world a little deeper. If I'm taking 5 minutes to process an invoice, will it take me a minute to process an invoice after this digital transformation? If the answer is yes, people think the KPI is met. But these are the traditional KPIs or the outdated KPIs where you measure every dollar invested against the return immediately from the optimization. You need to look at the digital performance scorecard, and these scorecards are available. These are not imaginary stuff. They are available in the market right now from most of the research companies, which look at the impacts of the transformation on employee morale, employee motivation, customer satisfaction. These were all never measured before because there were not enough tools to measure customer satisfaction or employee motivation, but now there are tools. So you need to take a holistic view of a digital transformation. If you take a myopic view of just the balance sheet and P&L impact of a transformation, you'll probably again miss a big picture, and digital transformation will be considered as a not so successful project while you actually missed out on a lot of important KPIs. The other major problem is how many, can I have a quick show of hands, how many of you have a digital transformation organization, or let's call it chief digital officer in your organization? Can I have a show of hands? All right, very few hands have gone up, and not surprisingly, because this is something, again, many companies are not realizing. They're expecting the current teams to be the flag bearer, the torch bearer of digital transformation journey. What we need to understand is this is a big job in itself. It's not a part-time job digitally transforming a company. You need to carve out the best people from your respective departments, one from finance, one from procurement, one from supply chain, one from IT, one from tax, X, Y, Z, and then you need to make sure they're managed by a thought leader. Call him as chief digital officer, call him whatever else you would like, but there should be a separate team of digital organization which is transforming your organization. This is the other common problem where most of the organizations are struggling because they are giving this as a pet project to the current people who already have a lot of work on their daily calendar. There are not enough digital roadmaps and tactical plans are made. I think this is very common and self-explanatory. The fourth one is, again, very common in our part of the world, in most of the developing world. The resources are not enough. I'm sure most of you want to do a POC on blockchain. I'm not sure if most of you can find a resource who can help you with that. I'm sure most of you want to do something around machine learning, but I'm not sure if the right resources are available at the right price for you. So the resource constraint is another big problem where people start the journey and then they realize the resources are either not affordable or not scalable. So the right thing to do again is make sure you upskill, cross-skill, or acquire your resources before you even go there. Last but not the least is the digital platform or silos of innovation where, again, we talked about this, different departments going through their different independent journeys. That's something we need to arrest quickly. This brings us back to the quick point about data. And again, the stat is self-explanatory. Only 10% of the companies have a single version of truth. And this is because multiple systems. We talked about it already. What is more scary is the following stat, again, from IDC, that 80% of the data is inaccurate or inefficient. And more than 70% of the employees have access to data which they shouldn't. And organizations have left more than 50% of their data unmined. So effectively, this is the last slide where we'll try to sum it up. We talked about why digital transformation is important. So we said start with a roadmap, people, process, and technology. Don't put technology first. Put people first, process first. I know I'm out of time. I'm going to try to wrap up really quickly. Can we get the alarm off? Sorry about this. So yeah, I think I'll share this slide with you anyway, but let me populate all of this because they're all connected points. Effectively, what we're trying to address in this slide is that the key message I wanted to share with you was that effectively now, once we understand all the problems, this is the solution, or you can call it a cheat sheet of your digital transformation. Communicate your goals clearly. Put people first, processes second, and technology third. And don't make it an IT project. Make it an organization-wide project. And make sure you're not doing it because your competition is doing it, and we talked about that point already. And then make sure it's a journey and not a project. With that, yeah, we talked about this already. I have only one slide which sums up why Sage and why we feel Sage is unique in this space, and why, forget about Sage for a second, why you should look at a vendor which has most of your business processes catered in a single solution. So don't fall in the trap of finding 10 products from 10 different vendors which are best of the breed and then try to integrate them, because that's, again, a very expensive affair and not a very sustainable affair either. So as Sage, what we did was we made sure we are platform independent, and we give you, we don't have time to go through all these modules, but we give you most of them out of the box so that you can have end-to-end business processes, not just your ERP, your HR, your supply chain, your manufacturing, your procurement is all connected into a single platform. With that, I'll leave you with this thought. Thank you very much. I've overrun my time, but this is a very interesting thought, and if you can read it, I'll probably say it while I'm walking off the stage, that digital transformation should be a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. So it should feel like it's a transformation. Many senior executives, even today, are thinking of a faster caterpillar instead of a butterfly. Thank you very much.